Welcome everybody to the Barlow Museum. This museum we constructed, we being my wife Anne and myself, we constructed this over the last 2 or 3 years with enormous help from Adam and Hector Benson and Dennis Lucy. So a tremendous amount of work's gone into creating what I'm very happy to say as a Barlow Museum. It's called Barlow Museum not because that's my name so much as it is dedicated to my grandfather, who was an industrialist and inventor of engines. He produced engines between around 1910 and 1930 when he went broke in the Great Depression. He built about 2,000 plus engines plus another 2,000 odd windmills, stoves, hoists, oil dispensers, etc. We are about 60 kilometres west of Sydney at the base of the Blue Mountains, where I've lived for pretty much most of my life, and now we're going to take you through some of the engines that we have here. The most prominent engine in the collection is not yet here, it's still in the UK. It's an original Otto Deutz atmospheric engine. That's the only Otto engine in private hands in the world. It's a hydrogen fueled engine, but the first engine we will show you is one of Wayne Grenning's copies, faithful 3/4 size Otto atmospheric engine. Again, it's an engine that runs on hydrogen, and I'll be showing you that one very shortly. We'll show you also a faithful reproduction of what is often regarded as the first motor vehicle in the world. That is a Benz, often regarded as the inspiration for Daimler to then produce a 4-wheel version of Ben's three-wheel version. We'll then show you a couple of other engines. My first engine, which I collected in the late 80s, about 1980, the late 80s, when I first started collecting. So I've now been collecting for 30 odd years, so the collection you'll see has been the outcome of 30 years of fairly dedicated collecting from all over the world. At the moment we have about 100 engines in the museum. I have about 15 or 20 top-class, world-class engines to come in from the UK, where they've been in a private museum for quite some time. We were to be in Europe right at the very moment, but the coronavirus has precluded us from going to the Nuenen Valley, which is the inspiration for this YouTube extract. After Nuenen, we were going to go on and load the container so that we could get the museum here pretty much complete. So I think at that point we will move and have a look at a couple of the specific engines in the collection. Okay, what we have here is one of the gems in this particular collection. It is the brilliant work of Wayne Grenning, who has produced 8 of these 3/4 replica Otto Langen atmospheric engines. This is a 3/4 size faithful replica of engine number 1, which is the 1867 Otto Langen engine. As I said, it's a hydrogen based engine. It's a double slide valve engine. It clatters a lot when it runs. We won't be running it today, maybe on another occasion we'll run it so you can see the operations of it. Very simple governing system. You can see the tap down here, which basically restricts the vertical downward motion of the piston, and it's simply air pressure that restricts or opens up the descent gradient of the piston. Beautiful engine, one of 8. Wayne Grenning is an absolutely brilliant manufacturer, and it's an absolute honour to have one of his or a couple of his engines in this particular collection. We have 5, I think, of Wayne Grenning's creations, and if anybody has the opportunity of of purchasing or obtaining one of these, then I'd be urging you to do that. Okay, what we have here is a faithful reproduction of what is often regarded as the first motor car in the world, designed by Carl Benz in 1883, but the first motor vehicle didn't actually run on any of the roads in Germany until 1886, when Carl Benz's wife took this on an initial 120k run. It's a faithful reproduction insofar as everything is pretty much as it would have been designed back in 1883, with the exception of the fuel system. This vehicle runs on petrol, whereas the originals ran on light fluid. It has a surface vapour carburettor, so it just picks up vapour from the tank, and shortly we'll show you the single slide. So it's actually a slide valve engine of about 954 cc. It runs very well on flat ground. It will not traverse any incline to any extent. This is a Series 1, which is the first of the models. The second model that came out had more gearing, lower gearing, and then of course after that through to these days where we have 8 and 10 speed automatic gears. Thank you. Okay, what we have here is an engine, a small open crank horizontal paraffin fueled engine called the Drake, produced by Drake and Fletcher in Maidstone, just outside of London, around 1898. This build number is 65. It is one of 2 Drakes known to be in existence. The other one is a gas engine which resides up in the north of England. This engine was purchased by me in the early 1990s as a basket case. It was an engine that nobody could seem at that stage to work out the fuel system, and it was thought to be incomplete. It had been pulled down and people had put carburettors on it. Anyway, we've now got it back running. It's around about 2 horsepower. Probably one of my favourite engines because it's not only rare, but the fuel system is atypical of almost anything else, and I'll put something up on the fuel system so you can read that. Here a Ardian Padmore Lowndes patent vacuum engine. Lowndes patented this design of engine in 1895. This particular engine was produced, we believe, around 1903, 1904. There were around about 550 vacuum engines actually produced, of which this is the second smallest. This has a bore of 2 inches. There were 8 sizes produced. This is about 1/12 or 1/15 of the horsepower when it's running appropriately. It is one of 2 Lowndes patent vacuum engines to have survived. There is another one in a nursery in the UK. This one has spent the last 25 years in Texas in the United States, and it was brought in from the States a year or so ago. It's a novelty engine. It's a very low powered engine, but being an engine it fits well into the rest of the museum. What we're going to show you now is the Lowndes patent vacuum engine running. the advertising sign you've just seen was taken from a brochure produced around about 1920. My grandfather produced about over 2,000 engines and about 4,000 pieces of machinery between 1910 and 1930. He produced 12 or 15 styles of engines, vertical engines, horizontal engines, two-stroke engines, four-stroke engines, compressor engines, generators. My first engine, which we'll show you shortly, was a large, what we call a large two-stroke Barlow engine, produced about 1912. It's a 3 horsepower engine, of which we think there are about another 2 in existence. What you see behind me is a range of Barlow engines. Surprisingly, well, not surprisingly I should say, they're all different. They may look very similar when you scan across them, but most of the parts are not interchangeable. Before mass production, obviously people were producing one-offs, and they were producing whatever was available to get an engine running and to get it into the market. The predominant market for Barlow engines was small dairy farms on the north coast. The original factory which ran from about 1910, 1911 through to 1922 was in Ballina. In 1921 he opened a second factory in Leichhardt, so they ran production into 2 centres. The Barlow engines are quite collectible, even though they're a very simplistic engine, nothing at all sophisticated, but having produced that number of engines makes him one of the, I guess, larger manufacturers in Australian industrial history. Thanks, Tim.